So, so I'm going to be talking to you about the WAGR syndrome patient registry. I want to tell you about how it was formed, what it looks like, and how it works. And my hope is that by giving you a glimpse of our experience, we can all begin to think realistically about the possibility of an aniridia patient registry in the future. So the IWSA's journey into patient registries actually started in 2002, when parents began to realize, talking with each other, that many of our children had similar symptoms, features, and conditions. Symptoms, features, and conditions that had never been reported in the literature. And because of that, our physicians were not aware of those things because they'd simply never been documented. So we took it upon ourselves to create that documentation in a very simplified way. Our first patient registry was a paper and pen survey. The questions were yes, no, and fill in the blank. When we got the, we mailed these in the postal mail to families in 19 different countries. And when we got the results back, we tabulated the numbers and then began to shop those results around to various scientists with the hope that someone would be willing to do a deeper dive into this data and help us to publish. So this very early, primitive patient registry actually taught us a lot of important lessons. First, it taught us that being patient-centered matters. The survey asked questions that parents wanted to have answered. As a result, it revealed information that no one had thought to ask about. But one of the drawbacks was that we failed to collaborate with scientists and researchers on the development of the questionnaire, so we weren't asking the things that our scientists and researchers really wanted to know about. Another benefit of our database is that it included more than just the patients in a particular medical facility or a medical practice. And so the result was the largest cohort of patients with WAGR to date. But we discovered that simply asking questions is not enough. How you word the questions matters. How you word the answers matters. And for a paper and pen survey, handwriting matters. A poorly designed questionnaire can result in a lot of poor quality, unusable data. So finally, our goal for our survey was to be global. Because aniridia or WAGR syndrome is an ultra-rare disorder, it didn't make sense to just keep it local. We needed to be global. One of the drawbacks of that, though, is that because the survey was only mailed, it only went to the families that we already knew about. So that really limited our numbers. But for all its shortcomings, this first effort was ultimately successful because it led to a study involving patient chart review at the University of Vanderbilt, which resulted in the first ever review article on WAGR syndrome. The publication of this article gave families priceless evidence to demonstrate to their children's physicians that our concerns were valid. This resulted in better monitoring, earlier diagnosis, and more effective treatment. The publication in the journal Pediatrics actually accomplished even more than that. It attracted the attention of a scientist at the National Institutes of Health. And that led to a genotype-phenotype correlation study at the NIH. Numerous publications resulted from that study in journals from Nature Communications to Cortex to the New England Journal of Medicine. And all of these things were more than enough motivation for us to continue to try to push forward and create a real patient registry. So in 2012, the NIH launched a pilot project out of the Office of Rare Diseases Research. It was called the Global Rare Diseases Patient Registry and Data Repository, or GRDR. The goal of the GRDR was to enable patient advocacy organizations like the IWSA to create high-quality patient registries. The IWSA was one of 24 organizations selected for this project, and we were by far the smallest. I later learned that the strength of our application rested on the fact that we wanted to be a model for other very small organizations, that if we could do it, anyone could. We also felt really strongly about collaboration, because that was one of the lessons that we had learned already, and so collaboration needed to be a cornerstone of our efforts. So the goals of the GRDR project were pretty straightforward. To create patient registries that were digital, meaning an online platform, global, to create data sets that included as many patients as possible, not just those in small areas. To incorporate portals that were accessible to participants, to clinicians, and to researchers. And to use survey questionnaires that collected data in a standardized format. And then finally, to ensure robust privacy protection. These were all great goals, but achieving them turned out to be a lot more complicated than any of us imagined. For more than 2 years, those of us who worked on the project felt like this. We were building the plane while we were flying it. We discovered that none of the patient registries that existed at that time fit our criteria. Policies and procedures for governance, for ethics, for privacy, not only had to be written, but they had to be reimagined so that patient advocacy organizations could fulfill them properly. The GRDR project even introduced the concept of common data elements so that these could be used across many registries. Every time we turned around, we were inventing wheels. It's a wonder we got off the ground at all. But get off the ground we did. In 2015, we launched the WAGR Syndrome Patient Registry. It incorporates many of the original goals of the GRDR because it is online. Our 124 current participants are in more than 26 countries around the world. The questions and answers were created in collaboration with a team of physicians and scientists. They're standardized, and the platform is open to any IRB-approved researcher. And the whole thing conforms to the European Union's General Data Privacy Regulation. So what does the registry actually look like? Well, participants go to a website called CORDS, hosted by a nonprofit called Sanford Research, and I'll explain more about those later. When participants land on this home page, they just click on Enroll Now, and then they're prompted to set up a username and a password. After that, participants see a brief explanation of the purpose of the registry. They have to read and sign a consent form, and then they have to fill out boxes with basic information: their name, address, birth date, primary diagnosis, and so on. And then we get to the heart of the registry. There are a total of 52 questions in sections covering all of the systems of the body that are affected by WAGR. These are in alphabetical order, starting with allergy, immunology, and then continue on to behavior, cardiology, and so on. Notice the format of the questions in this first section. There's multiple choice, there's yes, no, unsure, and there's if yes, then select the answer. There are no handwritten lines, there's no free text. The section on endocrinology, the format is a little different. Each diagnosis includes a drop-down box to indicate whether the condition is currently a problem, not a problem today but was in the past, was never a problem, or unsure. Notice too that most of the conditions and diagnoses include a brief explanation of the diagnosis in layman's terms. The section on eyes and vision adds another column, allowing the participant to indicate whether each diagnosis, such as aniridial fibrosis syndrome, cataract, keratopathy, is for the right eye, the left eye, or both eyes. When the question involves surgery, participants indicate whether they've had a procedure, on which eye or both eyes, and the age at the time of the procedure. The survey continues on with sections covering lung and pulmonary conditions, gastroenterology, neurology, dental, orthopedics, sleep, and quality of life. So at this point, you're probably wondering how much all of this costs. Oops, too far. One more. Where did it go? It's this one. That's it. That's my fun slide. So the IWSA is a very small organization. We certainly do not have a typical registry in the U.S. can cost $50,000, $100,000 per year to maintain, and that's not possible for us. We also don't have IT staff to create the registry or to maintain it. We do not have administrative staff to oversee it and to manage it day to day. So, we partnered with CORDS. CORDS is Coordination of Rare Diseases at Sanford. It's a nonprofit registry platform funded through an endowment by Sanford Research, which is also a nonprofit. CORDS supplies the IT infrastructure and administration. There is no cost to participants, none to patient advocacy organizations, and none to researchers. And a critical point is that participants own their own data. They have complete control over their own data. And of course, everything is not perfect. We still have some missing pieces. For example, the registry is international, but the survey is only in English. We've developed some workarounds, but that's what they are workarounds. There's no portal for clinicians or for electronic health records. And we don't have a lot of the fancy bells and whistles that expensive platforms have, like interactive graphics. On the other hand, It's hard to argue with success. As you're about to hear in the next presentation from Dr. Kalish, data from the WAGR Syndrome Patient Registry has recently been used to publish not only the most comprehensive characterization of this disorder to date, but to create a whole new set of evidence-based guidelines, including lifelong monitoring for Wilms tumor, chronic kidney disease, and a variety of other conditions. And also specific care management recommendations for most of the conditions associated with WAGR syndrome. This is the first time that we have ever had these things, and it all came from our registry. And all of this is just phase 1. We will be continuing with the next phase of this study, and Dr. Kalish will describe that. So as you've seen, patient registries are the key to overcoming obstacles and dramatically accelerating research on a rare disorder. A registry helps to fully characterize the disorder. It quantifies and validates what you think you know. And it can also identify the things that you didn't know you didn't know. Improving your understanding of the disorder increases the pace and the productivity of research by attracting scientists and giving them something solid to work with. A patient registry can be a key component of clinical trials because it's a database of potential trial participants. And it's also a repository of the natural history of a disorder. It can also give you the clinical endpoint data that regulatory agencies require for drug development and approval. And all of these things lead to the Holy Grail, new treatments that will improve the lives of patients and their families. So the future. The WAGR Syndrome Patient Registry continues to grow, and we continue to work on improving how it works. But as you all know, there is no comparable patient registry for aniridia. And there are a lot of obstacles that we've discussed to creating one. But I think the moral of the story from the WAGR Patient Registry is not to let the perfect get in the way of the good. It's okay to have missing pieces. You have to start somewhere. My hope is that one day, all of us are going to look back on this conference and say, that's when the seed for the aniridia patient registry was planted. Thank you.